Hey everybody, my name is Brian, owner of Painting System Blueprint, and today we're going to talk about by far my favorite topic, which is how to attract and actually find high-performing painters. Okay, because depending on where you're at within your company while you're watching this, you probably know and you probably understand and realize that, the key and trick to growing a company, to scaling a company, to doing something special, making a positive impact, making as much money as you would want to, all of that is directly correlated and tied in with just actually having a team that you construct, that you surround yourself with, and they help you get this done and that done, and vice versa. You just reciprocate, and you're a cohesive system, getting your job done. So the biggest thing that I always hear is like, where the heck do you find these people? Like every single business out there, they're always running into this number one issue. Once you get to a certain point, that you realize and have the epiphany that, hey, I can't do this alone. I need people that are so much better at this than I am. And, I can't find them. So today, there's a couple truths that I want to kind of cover real quick about high-performing employees and painters specifically. But this does apply and appeal to everybody. Okay, so we're going to talk about truth number one. Okay. So they're attracted to great companies. Okay. So if someone is genuinely a really high-performing employee, they're going to be naturally attracted and gravitating towards a company that provides and exemplifies the professionalism, the high-end eliteness of what they can actually get done, and just gravitate towards them because one, they can get, or that company can get that person, to where they want to be quicker. And two, it's just a lot more, of an appealing aspect to be a part of something bigger, that's more structured, formalized, and put together. So you got to be a great company, okay? We're going to get into what I mean by that in a couple minutes. But second truth that I want to dive into real quick is they love structure and growth. Okay, so if you're watching this, you might be thinking to yourself, no duh, who didn't know that? But the reason that this is kind of super important to kind of reflect on is because one, you got to figure out what the structure actually look like and how can that be pitched to somebody. And two, in terms of growth, what does that actually mean? Okay, because this in itself is a lot more of a deeper dive. So, in other words, they love structure, they love growth, they want to be a part of something bigger, and a part of a company that's actually really, really great at what they do. Okay. And then the last truth. So, we as owners, we're not marketing or selling to them properly. Okay. So, this might sound a little bit of a different perspective, but us as business owners, we generally don't do enough whenever it comes to physically just marketing to these actual people. One, where are they? Two, how do we reach them? Three, once we reach them, what do we say to get them, appealing, or to get them to like what we're offering or whatever. But most companies, and honestly I would say about 90% of business owners don't do this the right way. If you internally reflect and just physically see how much money you're spending and how much time and energy you're putting into your recruiting process and what your physical day-to-day and month-to-month interaction looks like, it's really not that much whenever you compare it to other aspects of your business. So getting this down packed, one, gives your company the actual structure that these people generally love to do or love to see. Two, it sets you up to leverage yourself for growth because it's a nice system. And three, you're being perceived as a great company. So everything does come down to this, because if you're just running an ad saying hey, I'm looking for a painter, you must have a license, you must not be afraid of heights, blah, 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 the same stuff everybody else does, it gets lost in the mix. It looks very neutral. It doesn't stand out as a great company to work for. So within each of these truths, let's dive in real quick to kind of what I mean by these, okay? So in terms of being a great company, one must have a good team culture, okay? They must be really good at consistency, reliability, and making a positive impact. Okay? So this is kind of like what we boiled it down to in terms of like what we do to be perceived as a great company. So in order to be a great company, one, team culture, that's got to be there and be consistent, because whenever you get to a certain point within your company and you're ready to scale, usually you have at least 10 people on your staff. That's whenever you're ready to make your next step or like leap up to that next level. And the only way to get there is to do it with other people. So again, you physically can't get this done by yourself. So having a nice team culture is important. So like that means you know, whenever you're bringing somebody new into your organization and they see everybody in a group, what vibe do they get? What energy, vibe do they get? How is everybody being perceived? Is everybody being positive? Are people just standing around? Do people like have the ambition and drive in themselves around that person to be wanting to get stuff done? Are people like bonusing out, making more money, getting performance-based pay? Like these really good people can sniff that out from a distance. So being perceived as having a culture, it's one, not only like fun, but two, it sets this person up for success even more. Consistency and reliability. This goes hand in hand in terms of like just doing what you're going to be, or like what you say you're going to be doing. And it sounds pretty simple, and kind of common sense, but most companies aren't good at doing this. So if you say, hey, John, we are going to keep you busy 12 months out of the year. You'll have nothing to worry about. You're on pace to get a promotion within the first 90 to 120 days. These are your goals. You got to do this, this, and this to get here. If John does all that stuff and he doesn't see the raise or to like see what you're, promising him, once he gets to that point, you become unreliable and inconsistent. So how are they going to be reliable and consistent? So high-performing painters, they generally are incredibly persistent. That's why we love them on our teams. They get a lot of stuff done. But again, they're not going to try and like give you that reliability and consistency if they don't see that in turn from you. Next one is positive impact. So again, like really, really good companies, there's not too many out there that like have this nailed down, but having a bigger vision, having a bigger purpose generally gives somebody that wants to be performing at a higher level something to work towards, something to motivate them. So like them knowing your why, like why are you doing what you're doing? That is really important to do, just to articulate that, okay? And like physically, like having them see what you can do is huge too. So whenever we are interviewing people and we can tell that they're a high performer, something that we do in the actual interview is just be like, hey, what's your goals? What motivates you? And like asking questions like that, and we kind of like dig really, really deep into like what internally motivates them, what they're about, what makes them tick. Because that is a clear transition to then having us going to be like, awesome, I'm actually glad you said that, because this is like what we're doing right here with our company. We actually started this company because, like we used to work for a large national company. There were a couple things we saw that like fell through the cracks, and like we genuinely just wanted to have a different experience for every customer out in the field. At the same time, make it a really optimal experience for everybody on the team painting. Like things like that. So like having a positive impact on the customer, the industry, the actual painter. There's bigger things that you can be invested and become a part of, and that does help you build your reputation as a great company to work for, because like word is going to travel. Loving structure and growth. Okay, but dip on down here real quick. Alrighty. So performance-based pay. So for structure and growth, having a performance pay or base pay system does help, at least for us, to attract a solid A players. So what that means is if you sell a job for 100 hours and your team gets it done in 80, and let's just say you gross like 60% profit on there. Since our target is 50% gross, everything above 50% in terms of what we do, if that team comes under budget, they profit share that extra percentage above 50%. So that would be 10% over our target benchmark. So the team would take 5% and split it among the team members from that total job cost. So if it was a $10,000 project, that would be what? That would 20. God, I'm doing math today. So $10,000 project, 5% of that will be $500 dispersed between the team members. If it's 2 people, they would have got like a $250 bonus each. So things like that do add up over time. It could be like an extra $5,000 to $10,000 per team member if they're consistently profitable. Okay, so second thing here is progression path. Okay. So like giving them a clear progression path in terms of like them knowing what their timeline generally looks like is important to do. And like a lot of companies miss the benchmark on this one. So what we do on this one is our painters, we typically classify them into like 3 different categories. We have crew leads / master craftsmen. We have advanced painters, so typically somebody who's been around for a little while, but is not in the lead role. And we have actual apprentice painters. So there's 3 different categories to like what the level of expertise is on that painter. Each painter, in terms of like each job description and category, has a different hourly pay rate. So if they know that once you get to a crew lead, you make it $25 an hour, you can get performance-based pay. It might be like an extra $5,000 to $10,000 tagged on. You could be making $55,000 to $60,000 as a painter per year. And the progression path saying that like, hey, you have a 90-day intro period, get your feet wet, make as ton of mistakes as you can. At the end of the 90-day mark, you know, like my goal for you is to be fully autonomous, be fully trained and integrated, learn our SOPs and processes. That way, we'll be on a clear progression path to get you to where you want to be, making this much money, being in this position by this date approximately. So this is huge. Generally, we do take the time to like physically talk with every single person one-on-one to dive real deep into this, because like this is different for every single person in terms of like what their growth and mindset structure generally looks like. The next one is formalized SOPs. Okay. And the last one, personal and business goals. Okay. So formalized SOPs, for anybody that doesn't know, an SOP, that's a standard operating procedure. So let's just say you're painting cabinets. Your SOP would be to like clean them, sand them, or like clean them, degrease, tape and mask, remove doors and drawers. You will sand everything down, vac, tack, full prime, and then you repeat that process. So like you basically sand each top coat, vac, tack, next top coat. So that's an SOP. So that's basically just like a formalized checklist. It's your way of doing how you do things. And that's like the consistent and replicable nature of like what the standard is. So formalized SOPs, or a company having this for structure and growth, that's what I mean by structure. So like really high performing employees, they love seeing this stuff because 1, it's very clear, 2, it's concise, 3, there's, you know, like very specific measurables. So like somebody that's high performing, they generally have a higher tendency to have a general sense of accomplishment in getting like task A done and then moving on to task B. So like they just want to keep doing stuff, getting stuff done, you know, satisfying their personal and like business goals. And the SOPs help dictate that. And this is actually how you start scaling and kind of like adding more layers to the actual company. Personal and business goals. So growth and structure. This is by far, I think, the most impactful thing that we do with our team is we have every single person give us their personal goals, business goals, and we generally like to get more invested into that person to like know what they want to do, like whether they want to go to school or just like physically paint or their entire lives, or say in a couple of years they want to like work up the project management and become a general manager, or like maybe even a partner within the company. So like knowing things like that gives you an opportunity to like pitch your vision on them and be like, hey, I know it sounds crazy, but like this is where we're going. I can get you where you want to be. All that I got to know is exactly what you want to do, when you want to do it. We'll let you know how we got to do that, or like what we got to do to get there. And then this is your progression path. So you're seeing how everything here kind of like lines up like one layer on top of each other. In doing all of this, kind of like clustering into like one big sandwich. That is what is the appealing package. Because with high performing painters, it's not one thing, it's not two things. It's like 10 to 12 different things at once. So that is, the biggest thing that I can kind of give you for a takeaway. This last one, so we're not marketing and selling them properly, okay? So compare this to sales, okay? Jeez. So whenever I say we're not marketing or selling to them properly, again, like the average or business owner, they just like type up an ad, go on Craigslist, Indeed, or a Facebook post, or like whatever it would be, and saying, hey, looking for painters, we have the work, looking for tons of, or no experience required, or like tons of experience, like whatever, however you want to word it, with like 3 basic requirements. So like you gotta have a license, you gotta like be respectful and clean and just like hardworking, ambitious, blah blah blah. Everyone's saying generally the same things. So you got to figure out a way to mix it up and kind of just like get in front of these people and be doing that in a different manner to, one, just grab their attention long enough for them to be like, okay, I'll click it, I'll look into it and learn more. This sounds pretty cool. It's different. So comparing it to sales, again, this is how we do it. Whenever we do sales with customers selling paint jobs, it's like as much as we possibly can do. Because like we know we're trying to charge a premium price, get a lot of money to be able to provide a better service for our customers. It's tough to do that in a way that builds trust and confidence in that customer to say yes to you in the first place. So with sales, like one, to just get the lead, that's a lot of effort and work and energy. Okay, so like you gotta like physically have the ads or like referral campaigns or like customer lists to kind of like market into. So physically taking the energy and time spent to get the leads to come in, that's like one thing. Another thing is like once you get the lead, how does the experience like unfold from there? So like there's pre-positioning, there's calling, there's emailing, there's being readily available and communicating really well. There is pre-positioning like mailers you can do, thank you cards, confirmation emails, reminder texts. Like there's tons of things like that you can do to make it be perceived as a good experience, because one, the customer wants to know that you're a good company, and great companies attract great employees. So if you're spending this much time and energy on you getting the physical job, why wouldn't you do the same exact effort to get the people? So like usually whenever you compare it to sales, again, there's a reason why I wrote that. Compare it to your sales process. So like on a sheet of paper, get like 2 sheets of paper. Well, on one, write your sales process, like everything you do, like pre-positioning wise, how you answer the phone, how you get the lead, like how much time are you spending to get the freaking job? And then what are you doing whenever you're actually there? What are you doing whenever you're following up? What are you saying? How are you presenting yourself? Are you like convincing people? Are you sales pitching them? Are you handling objections? Like all of that stuff does come into play, like giving them social proof. Like there's a lot that you can do on the sales process, but if you compare that relatively to your recruiting process, how does that compare? How does it stack up? Because generally, 9 times out of 10, the actual recruiting system is like nothing. It's like non-existent. And that's what I mean by like some people just posting an ad, getting applicants, letting them sit there in the applicant poll box for a couple of days, calling them, texting them once, getting frustrated whenever they don't call you back, and scheduling an interview. You might just like schedule an interview and say, hey, meet me here at this time, and that's it. There's no confirmation texts, reminders. There's no social proof sent to them. There's no smaller things kind of like given to them beforehand to like build value and trust in your company to be perceived as good. And then usually it either results in a no-show or an interview. And then usually, some people might just be like, okay, cool, you're hired. When can you start? Start tomorrow. Cool. That's it. You just hop onto a site. There's no onboarding. There's no training. There's no formalized process. There's no like formal sit down saying like, hey, what are your goals? What do you want to do? How can I get you to where you want to be? So most people just cut right to the chase because getting the jobs is not the hard part. This is the hard part. So compared to your sales process, if it doesn't rack up, then do more on the recruiting end, and I can guarantee you'll start having more flux. Okay, and then that brings it into the recruiting system. Okay. So this right here is like the biggest takeaway for me. Recruiting system, compare to sales process, build your recruiting system, start marketing and selling to them properly. And you want to perceptively be who they want to be. Okay, so the only way a high-performing painter is going to join your staff and be bought into your vision, be bought into you, is if they think that you are where they want to be. Because why would they want to work for somebody and join the team, be a part of what they're doing, if the owner, is running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, is super stressed, not making much money, fails to meet payroll, is inconsistent, doesn't own up to his word. Like, you don't want to be around somebody like that because that energy vibe is going to rub off on that person. So generally, if you can be perceived as somebody who has their stuff together, has a formalized and structured process, has a great team culture, the bigger picture and everything here smushed together, again, in the same sandwich, that is what the perception is. So if they see all of this happening, having one or two or three of these things, it's not going to make the biggest difference in the world. But having maybe like 6, 7, 12 of these, or all of these, this is what the big overall perception is. And this is how you attract high-performing painters. They are out there. I promise you, this is the number one critical thing that you have to do in order to scale a company. So I hope this helped. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. I'll catch you in the next video.